Greetings, Poe fans. We are back for our interview session, our interview hour. Jeannie, we probably need to come up with a fun name for this.
Yeah, we'll think of something along the
We
way.
will. We will. So tonight we want to talk with our very special guest, Micah Cover. He is Micah the Magician, as you can see from his background. And so, Michael, welcome. He is a regular on Poe Unplugged. We just love having him here. So, Micah, take it away. Tell us all about yourself.
Carmen, thank you. It's an honor to be here. And Jeannie, you too. Yes, I've been a fan of Unplugged for a while. It just saves time if I just say Unplugged. It just,
Oh,
that's like a second out of your day right there. You're
I
welcome.
yes.
understand.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of you guys. And like you said, I've been following you and fans of you for a while now. I think we must have met. I must have attended like the first meeting during the quarantine. Does that sound about right? How long have you
Um,
guys been doing this, by the way?
it was
This is our
actually,
third season.
yeah, third season. Poe
Okay.
Unplugged kind of started maybe what into the end of the first season, Jeannie? That sounds
Yes.
about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems
Okay.
longer
About
because we
two
love
years. I
doing
think
it.
this is
Yeah.
2 years. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So tail end of right after quarantine.
Got it.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and so you guys have been like the meetings that you were kind enough to let me attend, you've been doing this once a month for free for
Yes.
everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Different story or poem each month. And it's been fantastic. So thank
Well,
you for
thank
letting me
you.
be a part of it. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank
Yeah,
you
We're
yeah.
for
glad you
joining
joined
us.
us. So
Yes,
Very much.
absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, it's a pleasure. Definitely. Yeah. So I'm
Well,
sorry, what was the question? There was a
oh, that
question.
just tell us about yourself. Just give us a little bit
Oh,
of a little biography about yourself so our watchers and listeners can hear about you.
thank you. Yeah, well, as you were kind enough to say, I have been a magician for most of my life. And you'd asked the obvious question, how long have I been a Poe fan? Ever since the beginning of the Night of the Raven, which is this variety show that I produce every year in the LA area.
Mm-hmm.
It honors the life and the work and the mysterious death of Edgar Allan Poe, and
Right.
um, we're on our 19th year this coming November the 18th. So wish me luck.
Yes,
So I've been
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've been like most people when I was I think like probably similar to you. I was familiar with Poe as a kid and as a student, and people talked about the Raven, but I didn't really seriously get into him until about 20 years ago when I realized how incredible he was, and I've been a fan ever since.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you've been a magician almost all your life. So was
Yeah.
it something that you picked up as a child and then just continued into teenage years, adulthood?
Yeah, it's very Freudian. I started when I was 8, and if you ever ask a magician, when did you start magic? They almost always say, "Well, I was 8 years old." And there's something about that age. I don't know what it is, but so many people start at that age, but very few people continue. Um, but yeah, I started when I was 8, but I never really stopped. And then, man, about 25 years ago, I thought, man, I'd like to get paid. So I've
Yeah.
been trying to do this professionally for about wow, a quarter of a century now, and it's a tough
Wow.
way to make a living, but that's what I do.
That is really cool.
Thank you.
well, it's good
Thank
that
you.
you've stuck to it that long and
Yeah.
deter from it. So
Thank you. Yeah, Bank of America isn't quite as impressed, but
yeah.
I still try. Yeah, and I also teach. Now, Carmen, you are a teacher, is that right?
Yes, and Jeannie
Okay.
is a retired teacher.
Yeah, I'm
Jeannie is a
retired.
retired teacher. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
both of you are teachers. So I teach as well. And my heart goes out to anybody who's a teacher. Man, that's not easy. That is not easy.
It's definitely
Yeah.
changed quite a bit over the years. So it's kind of
Yes. Yes.
like your magic. You've had to, you've had some success. I'd say with magic, it's like any other type of performance art. You have some good, you have some bad. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So having a quarter of a century of juggling that type, I can't. So.
Well said. Yeah.
Yes.
But
Well
one of the things that I wanted that I was wanting to ask you is that what pushed you to mix the magic with the Poe? What brought this about, that you've been doing this going on 19 years of this presentation for Poe and your performance in that way? What really brought it out, and why has it kept you coming back, other than people, I guess, assume, since they're Poe people,
Right.
what's kept you interested in it, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I like Poe people. I call them Popal. Just saves time.
It's like that. I like that.
Yeah.
It's like
it's like pupils, but popals.
Popals. Popals.
Yep.
I like
Popals.
it. So my entree, if you will, in Edgar Allan Poe was the Raven, as it was for so many people and so many students. And I really enjoyed the poem, but wasn't sure there was something about it that was calling to me specifically, like as a magician. I thought it would be cool to perform the poem as a magician, but because I wasn't aware of anybody else doing it. There are a lot of actors who perform it, who recite it, who perform it as Poe. There's a wonderful actor named Duffy Hudson who performs the Raven in its entirety as Poe. He even does that with a Telltale Heart, the entire short story from memory as Edgar Allan Poe, and he does that in The Night of the Raven as a favor to me. Yeah, it's super cool. It's wonderful. And so there are all these actors who recite the Raven, sometimes in character. But then I thought, well, why would I do it? Why would a magician do it? And two things. There were two things about the poem that I stumbled on. And one of the big issues with the poem is, why does the narrator not just leave? Right. So he's kind of stuck in his living room. There's this raven on this bust of Pallas who keeps tormenting him by saying to him nevermore. And I kept thinking, well, if this is so torturous to him, why doesn't he leave his house? Like say to the raven, hey, I got it. I'm cursed forever, but you know what? I'm going out for some Taco Bell. Make yourself at home. I'll be back. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. As far as I could tell, there was nothing keeping him there, but Poe's writing is so powerful. The suggestion to me was that somehow he was stuck there.
Yeah.
And although Poe doesn't really come out and say why he's stuck in that specific room. And then the second thing was, and this inspired me to think of why the narrator might be a magician and why the magician might be the narrator in the first place. Yeah, you'll have to bear with me a little bit because I got to recite a little bit of it to get to the line.
Oh, you're fine. You go right ahead. That's cool.
Thank you. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. Now, to many people, this just means he's a voracious reader, which makes sense. He's clearly very literate. Poe was, of course. But one critic said, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. One critic or analyst of the poem said, this suggests that the narrator is actually going through ancient tomes of the occult. Quaint, curious volumes of forgotten lore. Now, obviously, you can interpret that in different ways. But when this analyst said that, what he was basically saying was that the narrator was a magician. Now, this opens up some doors and also, for me, answers some questions. From the beginning, the narrator is trying to summon back the spirit of Lenore, and he's using these occult texts to do it. Now, again, that's not the only interpretation, but for me, it explained why a magician might be the narrator and vice versa.
Yeah, that's a interesting spin, and especially that he's almost trapped in the room. I had not really even really thought about that in that way. That's awesome to think about it that way.
Thank you. And when I do the performance, I'm hoping people are picking up on this. Again, if they don't, they're just seeing some guy reciting the Raven, which is fine. But again, this was my not this was my rationalization, my excuse as to
Hmm.
why a magician was reciting this. And then the next thing to address what you just mentioned, why doesn't he just leave? Well, first of all, he does want the spirit of Lenore to come back. He has been casting these spells in order to try to bring her back, but instead he gets this Raven. But the other reason why he's stuck there is because he's so tormented by the loss of Lenore. He is so he's so desperate in order to appeal to this desperate act of using the occult to bring Lenore back.
Hmm.
Now it puts into question his own sanity.
Yeah.
And of course, Poe is a master of the unreliable narrator, like the Telltale Heart and
Yes.
other things. Just how much are we supposed to believe? Is this guy really mad, even though he tells us that he's not? And so it dawned on me, if his mentality is in question, if we go a little further, that might mean he's crazy. He's certainly desperate enough to try
Mhm.
to make a deal with the devil to bring Lenore back. He
Right.
must be mentally uh, at his wit's end. And so, therefore, why wouldn't he be in a straitjacket? So now, kind of like the Telltale Heart, I saw one group where the narrator, that you don't know until the end of his narration that he's been speaking to the court, that he's already arrested, and the entire Telltale Heart was his statement
Hmm.
while he's on trial. And so along those similar lines, if I'm in a straitjacket, it explains a lot. It explains why he doesn't leave. It explains why he's so mentally fractured. And
Yeah.
so now I get to try to escape from a straitjacket while reciting the Raven. And I hope that wasn't too long-winded. I hope that made sense. But
Oh, it no, that's a
yeah,
perfect explanation. And you shared with us your video of you coming out of the straitjacket reciting the Raven,
Mhm.
and it was
yeah.
so well done. I was just like in awe
Thank
when I
you.
watched it.
Oh,
Well,
that
another
means a lot.
thing
Thank you.
is while you're doing that, like you're talking about how he's trapped himself.
Yeah.
So, the straitjacket to me is the physical representation of his trapped
Mhm.
mind.
Yes.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, while you're telling the story, you can get the figurative trap of his own mind. Like
Yeah.
he is so wrapped and so lost in his own grief and everything, he's trapped himself like in a straitjacket in his own mind. And he's trying to figure out a way to break free.
Yeah.
So to
Jeannie,
me,
I
that's
love that. Yeah, yeah, because
to me
you're
that's how
absolutely
it splits.
Yeah.
well said. And as you say, I'm physically trying to get out of a physical
Mhm.
straitjacket. But Jeannie, you're absolutely right. What if the straitjacket itself is just in his mind?
Yep.
Yeah.
So lost in his grief, I think is what you said, and that's a
Yep.
perfect way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
I mean, there's so many people, and grief is such a strong, strong emotional barrier that many people have to overcome. And
mhm.
sometimes you can't overcome it, you just live to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But to me, every time Poe wrote, a little piece of his grief was laid out on his pages and everything that he did in his poems and his stories and everything. So it wasn't like he was escaping it. It's like he was using it and bringing it out. So he was like breaking down that barrier in his own mind of the grief that had proponent. And I love how your interpretation of it, because most people, you've heard it, you've recited the poem many times of forgotten lore, and everybody automatically, well, I have to say, maybe not everybody, but a vast majority don't think of the classics as forgotten lore. However, in today's society, most don't even read the simple classics that we used to all the time.
That's
You know,
very
Yeah.
true. In school, we're moving away from many classics, which hurts my soul. But we
I
still
do.
we still add some in because it's important, because all of our new literature comes from all of the old literature.
Yes, that is very true, and you can't do better than Poe, really. And
No.
even today, as you know, there's the new Netflix series, Fall of the House of Usher,
Yep.
and it's still whether people watch it and know it came from Poe or not, he's still influencing us today. So I'm glad you're fighting to get Poe back into the schools, Carmen.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we have to keep Poe alive. I always say we have to keep Poe alive forevermore. And I
yeah,
would say,
Mhm.
speaking, we won't go digress too much into it, but yeah, Jeannie and I have been excited for this new Netflix series, and they've been
Mhm.
announcing it. It seems like for really almost
A
since we
year.
started this. Yeah, at least a year, maybe two.
Mhm.
And so
yeah,
Jeannie and I have got to find a day to sit down and binge the whole thing.
yeah.
Oh,
So are
Now,
you guys gonna
Micah.
like? Oh,
yeah,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, now I was going to ask you. You have this one. How long does this last? This one that you're doing in next month. You said you got the dates already for the Raven.
The Night of the Raven.
Yeah, the Night of the
Yes,
Raven already.
yes. So yeah, things are a little. I just got some new information earlier today. I don't
Mhm.
know if it'll help or not, but I'm going to put the ticket link in the chat just so that
Oh,
people can
yeah,
open up the
Oh,
link.
oh,
Yeah.
that's right.
absolutely. Yeah,
So
we'll share that out.
Mm-hmm.
thank you. So Jeannie, to answer your question, it's a theater called Loft Ensemble, which is in North Hollywood, very close to a place called the Magic Castle. Some of your listeners and viewers might be familiar with this place,
Mhm.
and
I
they've been
actually
kind
am.
enough. Oh, wonderful! Oh, maybe
Yeah.
I'll see you there someday, Jeannie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they've been kind enough to be the home for the Night of the Raven ever since we got back out of the quarantine where I needed a home, and
Mhm.
this will be the 19th year that I've done this, and there have been different acts every single year. Although the actor that I mentioned earlier, Duffy Hudson, the one who recites the Telltale Heart in character, he's been in almost all of them. And so we've got another lineup this year, and wish us luck.
That's awesome. So
When
what
you're
do
not
oh yeah, go ahead,
presenting,
Jenny.
sorry,
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go
when you're
ahead.
not when you're not presenting during the Night of the Raven, what, do you perform the rest of the year in different things, or what do you do basically outside of the Night of the Raven is what I'm asking.
Whatever I can and whatever pays. You know how it is. Yeah,
Exactly.
it,
Yes.
woo, we performers, man, it's a tough uh, life already, but especially
Mhm.
with this recession and the inflation and everything else, it's tough. But to answer your question, just wherever I can book another gig, a lot of private parties, that kind of
Mhm.
thing. Once in a while, people will ask me to perform the Raven for like some sort of fundraiser or something like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
I used to do a show called Haunted House Calls, which was the
Ooh,
story of that magician. And it ended with my recitation of the Raven while escaping from a straitjacket. And so that show was the explanation as to how he got to that point. So just wherever I can get a gig, that's where I perform. But I also teach magic as well. And again, my heart goes
okay.
out to you guys for being
Well,
teachers.
thank you.
Hey.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you teach magic to all ages, or is it kids, or
Yeah, anybody who's willing to learn,
Mhm.
as you may be aware, adults for the most part are too cool to do magic, but once in a
Mhm.
while I do get an adult student, but the majority of them are kids.
Okay.
But yeah, once in a while I'll get a consulting gig where someone says that I need this to happen, and then can you figure out a way to make it happen? And sometimes I can help them.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
would almost think too, bringing in, you as a magician into some companies to like do like a team building or bonding activity would be really fun, doing something like that.
Oh, thank you. Speaking of juggling, I got hired by a company to teach them a juggling workshop during their yearly field trip. Every year they get
Hmm.
stuffed into a bus and the bus takes them somewhere and
Okay.
they go on a field trip. And this year it was me. And so I taught them
Nice.
juggling, and it was like kind of like you were saying, a team building experience.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy stuff like that too.
Yeah. That I would think
That
that
sounds like
that
something
would
I
be.
would do.
Yeah, it
Ah, that'd be
does.
awesome.
It
Yeah.
definitely does. Well, going back to the Night of the Raven, and so you said there's different acts, from year to year. And so do you bring in other Poe stories? You had mentioned Duffy Hudson doing the Telltale Heart. Do you bring in other stories kind of to contribute to like the whole performance?
Yeah, so it's a variety show, and I invite my friends to contribute,
Okay.
and they all come up with their own act. There are some magicians, but then there are singers and musicians, and
Oh,
we've had
nice.
dancers, and yeah, and the only rule is their act has to have something to do with Edgar Allan Poe and his work, his life, his death, anything like that.
Oh, neat.
So, yeah, every year it's a completely different show. There's one magician named Georgia Lyle, and she graphically designed an entire magic routine just for this show. You can't see it anywhere else.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, we get things like that, and it's just very cool to see what people come up with. And there's no rehearsal, so when I see it, I'm seeing
Ah,
it for the first time, just like the audience. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
that's
Wow.
really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. It
yeah,
Oh my
reminds me of
goodness.
the times when you used to go to the theater for the variety shows, and they would just let people come out of the audience to on the stage and just do ad lib performances right there. I mean, and that is an art form that to me has been lost because
Mhm.
everybody
yeah,
has just been so used to going to a theater and actually watching a produced or directed or animated or recorded, but not really anything about live shows. And it's very hard. And most people don't understand that's never actually been in front of a crowd to do any kind of performance, how difficult it is to be in front of that, that immediate feedback,
Yeah.
basically. Like thinking from the old days with I'd always have to explain to my kids when I'd say I don't need anything from the peanut gallery. I have to explain to them what a peanut gallery is. And, it's not a
yeah,
bunch of peanuts that are ready to run on stage or anything like
Right.
that.
right.
Oh
So
my
I
goodness.
think it's great that you have that kind of a show to offer and you teach kids magic. That's just phenomenal.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, as a teacher, there's very little difference between what I do and a teacher like what you do. As you say, there's the peanut gallery, which we would call hecklers. And
Yes.
you basically gotta perform and convey this information, but make it interesting, make it engaging. That is a performance. And Jeannie, like you were saying, most people don't get how difficult that is. And it's like the Seinfeld joke where, and this is true, and I think I heard you two talk about this in one of the meetings. The biggest fear that most humans have is not death, it's public speaking. This is true.
Mhm.
Yes.
This is true. And as Seinfeld said, what that means is most people would rather be the corpse than the person delivering the eulogy. I mean, that's
Yep.
Yes.
crazy, but it's true. And that
Yes.
Yeah,
sounds like a Post story right there. You know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And most people don't appreciate how difficult it is. So I completely agree, Jeannie.
Hmm.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
Poe would be the corpse telling the story.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would be the corpse. Oh, and then Longfellow would deliver the eulogy, and then Poe would get
Mhm.
out of the casket. How dare you? And that'd be drama right there. But no talking mummies.
Oh,
No talking mummies, Jeannie.
No,
I know how you feel
no,
about that.
that's
No
right. Yeah.
talking mummies.
oh,
I
yeah.
don't need any words from a mummy.
I
No,
know. And those mummies still keep cropping up everywhere with her.
I don't have a problem with the mummy. It was just that story. I don't know what it was. It was just popping up out of thin air, and you're going, "What?"
I
I
know.
always is what had he been smoking, or what had he been drinking, or was
Yeah.
he LSD or some good peyote or whatever when he wrote this? Because I'm going, what? I don't have the capacity to, read this without having to have some of the same fun he was, apparently.
Oh my
He was
goodness.
he was clearly having fun when he wrote that. That is true.
Yes,
Most
yes.
definitely. Now, have you always lived in California, Micah?
Oh, I have been here for 20 plus years,
Okay.
which by LA standards is very unusual. To find a native Californian or LA resident is almost unheard of. But I've now been living here longer than any other place in my life. Yeah,
Oh wow.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
yeah. And
I don't
tell
know
me again where you guys are from.
So
Oh.
we're both from Tennessee, but I
Okay.
was born in Memphis, and then about 20-ish years ago, I ended up in the Nashville area.
Okay.
And then I'm the opposite. I was born in the East Tennessee in the mountains, in the Great Smoky Mountains, and I moved to Middle Tennessee about 16 years ago.
Mhm.
Okay.
We both are born Tennesseans,
Yes.
but we're from like opposite ends as far as you can in the state of
Yes.
Tennessee.
And both ends are very different. It's night
Yes.
and day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why there's three parts to Tennessee. There's an
Yes.
east, the middle, the west, because
Yep.
I think we are like one of a few of the longest states.
Yeah. Yeah. From
Oh, like
from
longest.
end
Yeah.
to
Oh, I
end.
see. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Absolutely.
almost 500 miles from end to end.
Yes.
So
Wow.
Yeah, you wouldn't think
it's a good
so, but
distance.
yeah, it looks like, an odd shaped state, but from that end to end, it's a long ways. So
Now, was it your magic that drew you to California?
Yeah, there's a place called the Magic Castle in Hollywood. Jeannie, you already know
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons why I moved out here. I always wanted to be a member there and hopefully a performer.
Mhm.
And there's a piano. You might appreciate this. There's a piano playing ghost inside the Magic Castle. Her name is Irma, and you can ask her anything, and she'll play it. It's pretty amazing. So I think you guys will appreciate this. One night I was at the Magic. I'm actually going to the Magic Castle tonight, and
Oh,
I'll
cool.
ask Irma about this. Yeah, but there was a woman who came up to Irma, and she was from Tennessee, and I know because she announced it to everybody. I'm from Tennessee, and like she would just say this, like I guess that's the law. If you're from Tennessee, you need to tell people I'm from Tennessee. So yeah, that's the law. Okay, so Jeannie corroborated that's the law. So she went up to Irma and she said, Irma, I'm from Tennessee, and I want to hear Rocky Top. You know the song Rocky Top. Like,
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Again,
yeah.
it's the law. You have to know that song. So she said, I'm from Tennessee. I want to hear Rocky Top. And there was this pause from the piano. And then you heard dun 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 dun. I was like, that's so familiar. And this woman from Tennessee said, Irma, that is Rock Lobster by the B-52s. That is not what I want to hear. I want to hear Rocky Top. Play Rocky Top for me right now. And then there's this pause, there's this silence.
Mhm.
And then Irma goes dun 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 dun. And then this woman from Tennessee, Irma, that is the theme song to Rocky. That is not Rocky Top. That is the wrong song. You play Rocky Top for me right now. And then there's this pause, there's a silence, and then Irma goes dun 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 dun, and this sounds so familiar to me, but I couldn't quite place it. And this woman from Tennessee says, Irma, that is the time warp from Rocky Horror Picture Show. That is not Rocky Top. That is not the song I want, and you know it. And I was crying. I was laughing so hard. And this woman from Tennessee was having this argument with this ghost about all these different Rocky songs. So anyway, whenever I have friends from Tennessee, I tell them that story, and I hope you guys appreciate that. And that actually happened.
Yes. That is
I definitely
that is
appreciate
awesome.
it because
I do too.
I can
Yeah.
picture my aunt. I can picture my aunt, God rest her soul. She left us last year, but she
I'm
would
sorry.
have something exactly like that.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
she was one of those that, she knew when you were wrong, no matter what.
Yeah.
She would have said something like, bless your heart, Irma. play
Mm-hmm.
it, you know.
Yeah.
But and the other thing is I actually was born and raised not 3 miles from Rocky Top. It's a real place.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that song is actually based on a real place, and it was my backyard. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
thank you for
And
sharing
and
that story. That just made me. I can imagine it. That was perfect. That is an example of Tennessee right there. Love
Yes.
it.
yes, yes,
It
yes.
truly is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what impressed me the most was that this woman from Tennessee was able, before I could, to recognize the theme song to Rocky, a Rock Lobster by B-52s, and she said, "Irma, that is clearly Tom Warp from Rocky Horror Picture Show." And how this woman from Tennessee knew that so quickly, I was like, "Wow, you are the man." The schools, the teachers they must have in Tennessee are incredible. So anyway, my hat's off to you
Oh,
because this
thank
woman
you.
was one of the brightest people I've ever met. She was outraged, but she was also very, very sharp. So
Yeah.
well done. Well
That
done to you
is
both.
that is so cool. Well,
We may not be fans of the volunteers, but we know the term Rocky
that's right.
Tops.
That's
Yes, you do.
right.
Yes, you do. It's true.
So, kind of switching gears a little bit. So, is there a favorite magic trick or anything that you like to do? In when you do performances and things like that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, if I have it with me and if I can do the setup and all that, I do enjoy the Straitjacket Escape, definitely.
Okay.
I was lucky enough to get on Penn and Teller 2 seasons ago. There's a show called Penn and Teller
Nice.
Fool Us.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
And those your listeners or viewers who aren't familiar with this, Penn and Teller are probably the most established magicians in the world. They've been
Mhm.
around forever, for decades. And they came up with this show where they fly magicians in to try to fool Penn and Teller.
I've
And
watched it sometimes.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So
Yeah.
so you know how it goes. And in a very fundamental way, the premise is not even to fool them. It's just to get on
Mhm.
TV and have fun and show Penn and Teller maybe something they haven't seen before, even if they can guess how it was done. And so
Mhm.
the trick I did, to answer your question, the trick I did on my episode is a trick that I really enjoy doing. And I got to do it with Willow from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. How
Oh, that is
that
so
that's
cool.
yeah, that's kind of goth adjacent. That's
Oh,
kind of Poe
Yeah.
yes,
adjacent.
yes, yes, yes,
So
yes.
yeah, that was literally a once in a lifetime experience. So that
Wow.
might be my favorite card trick to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
very cool.
Oh,
I wonder if I'd actually got to see that episode because I was watching it when she was doing some of the hosting,
yeah.
Penn and
Uh,
Teller. So I
yeah.
actually saw you and didn't even recognize it was you, Micah. Oh
I
man, that's just so
I get
cool.
that. Yeah, I get that a lot. I was wearing a different shirt, so there's no
Yeah.
way you would have recognized me. But yeah, it was season 8. But if you ever get a chance to see it, I hope you like it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
most
I was gonna say
definitely.
we'll just have to go back and watch that, and hopefully it's streaming somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure we could find it on
Yeah,
YouTube.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
that's
and
true. That's true.
right, and you guys have been kind enough to communicate with me via email, and as you may notice in the signature, what they call the signature at the bottom of the
Mhm.
email,
Hmm.
the link to that performance is in
It's
every
there.
email, so you could
Oh,
just yeah.
perfect. That
Nice.
yeah, we will definitely watch it, and
Check it
I'll be
out.
anxious to see if Jeannie did watch it before. That'll be
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
possible. Yeah,
Oh,
you
Well,
never know.
and that's one of the problems of being a teacher. Over the years, you see so many people that you can recognize faces, but the
yeah.
names are not
Sure.
even, like I can recognize the face, picture exactly when I saw them,
Mhm.
but through the Rolodex of like thousands and thousands of student names,
Oh, yeah.
it'll be days before something might pop into my head, or it may never pop in there again. You never know. But face,
Yes.
Yeah,
remember the face. So
sure.
watch it.
And of course, now no one even knows what a Rolodex is. They're like,
No.
that's a watch? Do you have that kind of budget? Like
Yeah.
they have no clue. Yeah.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
an analog clock. I mean,
Oh,
if you can do a magician's uh trick with an analog clock, I guarantee you would stump like 50% or more of the certain people.
Oh,
They don't know how to tell the time at all.
Right. Yeah, that is ancient witchcraft, isn't it?
It
Using an
Yeah.
analog clock. Yeah.
Oh yes, I
Yeah.
have one hanging in my classroom, and very few students know how to read it or trust themselves to remember that they did learn
Yeah.
this when they were in elementary school. And so,
Yes.
yeah, because a lot of them will just pull their phone out and look at the time, which is perfectly fine.
Right.
And so, and
Sure.
they're like, "Why don't you just get a digital clock?" And I said, "Because I like old." And they just
Yeah.
laugh
I'm
at me.
old, so leave me
Right.
alone.
That's right.
So,
Right.
Micah, what magicians were you most influenced by? I know most people automatically think of a magician, they think of Harry Houdini.
Yeah.
Oh,
As
sure. Oh,
being
and
the big, but who was the one that you idolized the most that kind of kept you or got you into it and kept you going in the magician world?
yeah, Jeannie, it's funny you mentioned Harry Houdini because, as you may be aware, he is the one who made the straitjacket escape famous.
Yep.
Hmm.
In fact, some historians think that he might have been the first one to perform it. There's a little bit of debate about that, but
Mhm.
Okay.
he's the one. He was one of the first, if not the first, to ever perform the straitjacket escape on stage in front of anybody.
Hmm.
And what's funny is about that, he originally performed it behind a curtain,
Mhm.
and someone, I think it was his brother Dash, suggested, well, because he didn't want to reveal any secrets or how he was getting it done, and someone, it could have been his brother Dash, said, "Get rid of the curtain." And
Yeah.
so
Interesting.
yeah, I believe he was the first one to perform it in literally in front of an audience where they could see him. And Houdini, the consummate showman, realized how perfect this was because they saw the drama. It was almost
Mhm.
not any secret of how to get out. It was, will he get out? And what does it look like? And the sweat coming down his face and all that. And
Mhm.
then when he would get out of it, he would hold it up high and then toss it down onto the ground and stomp on it. And it would help him become this icon of victory over adversity. And
Mhm.
so, Jeannie, when you mentioned Houdini, yeah, uh, another reason why I came up with the idea to escape from the straitjacket while reciting the Raven was because of him. So
Nice.
he's just about everybody's inspiration.
Yeah. I was kind of curious about that because of the straitjacket, performance. I didn't know if he was your main influence or not, because that one and him get escaping from the safe, or I think no, that was the one that actually killed him, wasn't it? That he died in. Was it the safe or was it the water one that he
I
couldn't recover from? I can't remember.
Carmen, it sounds like you want to take this one.
I think it was the water like chamber, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think
So,
so. Yeah.
so Tony Curtis came out with this huge
Mhm.
biopic of Harry Houdini
I've
in the
seen it.
1950s.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
have two.
yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, Harry Houdini is trapped in the water torture cell. And
Yes.
Mhm.
I think it's a stagehand who has to take an axe and hack away at the glass and
Hmm.
let him finally get out of it. But it's too late. And he has this big death scene. And unfortunately, that had nothing to do with how he actually died.
Yeah.
And how he actually died is very weird and messy and confusing. But essentially, it was like this. There was this idea that Harry Houdini could withstand blows to his gut, to his
Mhm.
abdomen.
Hmm.
And this guy, after one of Harry Houdini's shows, this guy approaches Harry Houdini in his dressing room and says, "Mr. Houdini, I understand you can withstand blows." And before Houdini can even respond, this guy starts wailing away at Harry Houdini. So imagine going up to Tom Cruise or Arnold Schwarzenegger saying, "Hey, I understand you can take some blows." And before the guy can even react, you start punching the tar out of Tom Cruise or Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's basically what
Wow.
this guy did. And so these strangers had to pull this man off of Harry Houdini while he's still swinging. And Harry Houdini ends up dying of peritonitis from a ruptured appendix.
Oh.
And that's how he met his end. But the screenwriters of this Tony Curtis biopic, they're like, that's too weird and random. Let's give him this really dramatic death. So a lot of people to this day still believe that's how Harry Houdini died. But it's not. It
Yeah.
was through this crazy attack by this random guy.
Okay. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for correcting,
Yeah.
everybody. I mean, because seriously, we like to, tell promote the
Mhm.
truth about Poe. And so, and of course everybody else. And so, yeah, that's very helpful to know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and considering Houdini has the same kind, well, he has a following, most like with Poe for
Hmm.
Yeah.
years, but there's always been those mysteries like you're talking about around certain things, like certain people say he died in the middle of a trick, but then you're saying that no, he actually died of, an infection because he got his appendix busted by somebody who just walked up and treated him like a punching bag, you know. So it's
That's yeah.
really one of those things that the mystery, I can see the mystery around Harry Houdini and Edgar Allan Poe, there's similarities that way. So
Hmm.
that's the way that you connect with your Life Jacket and your Raven production.
Yeah,
Connecting two major icons in one.
Oh
absolutely.
yeah.
That's a great
Yeah.
connection, Jeanie.
Yeah. Jeannie, that's a perfect way of putting it. There's no way that Harry Houdini could have done some of the things he did
Mhm.
without having Edgar Allan Poe in mind. He
Yeah.
did a buried alive escape
Mhm.
where he would be buried alive. And that was
Mhm.
famous because, according to his memoirs, he wasn't sure he was going to get out, much like the
Mhm.
narrator of Premature Burial.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Hmm.
Yeah, and he was a huge fan of Poe, and as you know, as you may know, he eventually became bitter enemies with his former best friend Arthur Conan Doyle. And one of the
Mhm.
ways he took down Arthur Conan Doyle was by saying Arthur Conan Doyle plagiarized Edgar Allan Poe to come up with Sherlock Holmes. So
Interesting.
Harry Houdini was clearly influenced and inspired by Edgar Allan Poe.
That's Jeanie.
Yeah,
That's a pop culture
Yep.
episode down the road.
That's
there you
right. Now
go.
we got our next episode right there.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
makes
Absolutely.
sense
definitely.
to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it truly
yeah.
it truly does. Yeah, I've always loved magic tricks and things like that. I can remember growing up on Sunday mornings. I think it was on our NBC channel, before we had cable, where you had just the few channels. We had a program called Magic Land, and it was a local program. Jeannie, did it come on in your area? No, okay. It
Well,
was,
okay, let me just say it could have, but I had the same three channels my whole life,
yeah.
and even till today, we never got cable or satellite
Okay.
or anything.
Okay. We were fortunate enough to get cable, and because my dad was really
Mhm.
into any kind of new technology, he wanted to
Yeah.
get it if it was, somewhat reasonable. And yeah, but just I remember watching Magic Land, and it was fun because it was this man, it was took place in the news station, and the like he had an audience of kids, and I was like, I really want to go on Magic Land, but I never got the opportunity. But it was just really a fun show. I think it was like 30 minutes, may have been an hour, but that always just intrigued me, and just how are these people doing those things. And so I would play cards with my dad, but he would teach me card tricks and things, and I'd try to do them on people, to see if I could mimic it, and
Now
pick a card,
mine was
any
always
card.
this. Mine was the science end of that. Like I would watch
Oh yeah.
One Contact and the Bloodhound Gang, and especially with 3-2-1 Contact, they would be doing all these kind of science experiments and stuff.
Mhm.
So to me, science experiments were magic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Causing a volcano to erupt just by combining the right type of materials that they would react against each other or not, that kind of thing. So to me, magic was always scientific.
Yeah.
So
It can be, definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love both sides of that coin. I
Yeah.
love
Sure.
I don't know how he did that, but that's okay. I'm sure there's a scientific reasoning behind it, but
Yes, I can see
pull
little
that card.
Jeannie being a science buster instead of myth buster, science
Yeah.
buster.
Yeah, I would always be
That's
that
so
one that
cool.
was in the crowd sitting there going, how did he do that? Because that's not real. I would be the skeptic. I would be the crowd skeptic. Not that I wouldn't enjoy it, but I would be the
Yeah.
skeptic. I'd be trying to figure out how it was done.
Oh yeah.
That's so funny.
I
Oh,
know.
the Bloodhound Gang. Oh man, there
Yes.
was an so the girl who would pick up the phone whenever there's trouble, we're there on the double. Mr. Bloodhound isn't here. So apparently the man never existed because he never appeared in
No.
any episode. And then
No.
there was one episode where she was doing the cut and restored rope trick. And then
Mhm.
at the end of the episode, the culprit's trying to get away. And then she does the cut and restore, and she restores it, and she uses it to trap the culprit. And I was like, magic. So
Yep.
good Bloodhound Gang reference there on you, Jeanie. Well
Yeah.
done.
I
Well
know.
done.
See, people need to be reminded of these kinds of things that they
Yeah.
get. We had that curiosity. We had that
Mhm.
of, whether you had a chemistry set or a magic set, even the Ouija board that was like it was just a game that people would play back in the 80s. So
Oh, yeah.
the curiosity of it all, I think, is one of the things that always kept me coming back and enjoying magic.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just to be curious, like, oh, that's cool. How'd they do that?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have a restaurant here in town. I think they're in a few cities, but it's called House of Cards. And you may have heard of it. And my husband and I have been, and it was fun. And they would do some of the tricks and things, in front of you, or go to different tables. And then they have a performance that you get a ticket for, that after you have dinner and go in, and they do a few of the magic tricks and things, and they put a lot of comedy in it as well.
I have submitted to House of Cards. They
Oh,
have yet
okay.
they have yet to respond, but one day I might be able to meet you two. That would be freaking
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, it
That'd be
would.
awesome.
That would be
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I
again,
have to
I don't.
ask the question. I have to know, since you are a magician, have you ever done the rabbit in the hat trick? I mean, come on, it's a staple. Everybody thinks that if you're a magician, that's exactly the only thing you do is pull a rabbit out of a hat. So, answer for the audience: have you ever pulled a rabbit out of your hat?
Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever seen live a magician pull a rabbit out of a hat? Have you ever seen that yourself, Jeanie?
No, actually, I've
Yeah,
not.
because here's the thing. It's in all kinds of cartoons and maybe movies,
Mhm.
Hmm.
and I could count on one hand the number of magicians that I've seen who actually pull a rabbit out of a hat. In fact, it's so rare that on the rare occasions when a magician did do it, that's
Hmm.
part of their pattern. That's part of their script. They say, everybody says, "Hey, can you pull a rabbit out of a hat?" But no one actually does it.
Mhm.
So tonight, my friends, I'm going to show you something that everyone thinks magicians do, but they don't
Hmm.
actually do. And people always ask me that, and yet it's because they've seen cartoons and they've seen
Yeah.
movies, but
Yeah.
magicians don't actually do it. Including myself, I have a sponge bunny routine, but I've never actually pulled a rabbit out of a hat. Magicians in general just don't do it.
That's
See,
really.
that's good to know. That's
It's kind
Yeah.
of
something.
like an urban legend, really,
Yeah.
when you think about it.
It really is. People just assume that that's what all magicians do, and in fact,
Hmm.
very few of them do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Pick a card. Any card is one of the staples, and pulling a
Mhm.
rabbit out
Right.
of it is the other one. So,
And
That's right. Yeah.
and abracadabra.
yeah,
There you go.
the key words of abracadabra.
That's right.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, the magician that pops into my head, was it from Rock? No, it's not Rocky and Bullwinkle, but I think it might have been from Bugs Bunny. You remember the magician? He had the handlebar mustache and the black.
Oh no,
who
you're
ran away from him.
Frosty the Snowman. That's who
Yeah,
you're
Frosty
thinking
the
of.
Snowman. That's
Ah,
it. I knew it was one of the
Yeah,
cartoons.
I can't remember the bunny's name, but he'd always try to run off it because the hat belonged to
Yes.
the magician that the
right.
kids took for
That's
Frosty.
right. That's right.
That's
So
so
I
funny.
was always rooting for the rabbit, going, go, go, go.
Yes, me
Yeah.
too. Me too.
Yeah. Be free. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
be free, run. Don't become a
I don't
rabbit's
blame you.
foot. It's good.
Oh my goodness. Well, Micah, it has been such a pleasure talking to you tonight. This has been awesome.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you. I love you guys. I love everything you do. Thank you for doing this month
Well,
after
thank
month for
you.
all your fans like me. I appreciate
Well,
it.
we love doing it and want to
Yeah.
keep on keeping on. So
Yeah.
Will do.
And so
if
you're going to be performing at the Magic Castle. Give us the dates, right?
yes,
again.
Oh,
Oh.
if and when that happens, that's up to them. But
Okay.
definitely, the Night of the Raven will be November 18th for anybody who is local to LA.
Okay.
And if I ever get to perform at the House of Cards, it'd be amazing to see either one of you, or
Yes.
better yet, both. Yeah,
We will be front
Maybe-
row. Yes.
Yeah, maybe we
Perfect.
can maybe we can hit some of our local people to see if they might know anybody at the House of Cards, and we can just say, hey, we need
Yeah.
a guy and bring him here.
Yes.
you're a good agent. Thank you, Jeanie.
Hey, I'll do my
Thank you.
best. I'll do my best.
Thank
But
you.
yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Micah, for being a guest.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
being a fan. We appreciate
Yes.
it. And
It's a
we
pleasure.
look forward to seeing and hearing more from you. So
Sounds good. Thank you.
have a great
Absolutely.
night.
Thank you.
And we will say bye-bye one more time.
Bye.
See ya.